Dear students, in today's class we are going to talk about the concepts of delegation and decentralization. So if we talk about the delegation, what is it all about? What do we mean by delegation? Then we would say that it is an entire process wherein you assign your job activities, wherein you assign the tasks that you were supposed to perform to somebody else in the organization, to some other specific individual of the organization. And who would be that individual? It would be generally your subordinates. So you are assigning your tasks to the another individual of the organization so that they perform that particular task on your behalf. Now, why do we need to go in for this delegation process? Because if the managers will be able to delegate their routine tasks to their subordinates who can handle them, then they will have themselves have more opportunities to get the increased responsibilities, to look at the higher level of jobs, to take up more responsibility from the higher level managers. So if I am a manager at one particular level and if I delegate my routine tasks to the subordinates, or if there are certain things which I feel my subordinates can perform effectively, I delegate it to them. Then in return, I can take further more responsibility from my senior. So this chain would keep on going. Then it will be beneficial for subordinates also because it trains them for higher job. They are my subordinates at present, but if they want to rise up to the level of manager and they are getting a chance here to perform the tasks which are actually the tasks of the manager, they are getting an on-job training. It will improve their self-confidence, it will motivate them, it will boost up their morale, and it will also lead to better decision making because those who are nearer to the actual performance of the job, my subordinates are the ones who are actually doing the job, and now what I am doing is I am giving the decision making power also to them, so they are having a better view of the you can say the task that is being done. They are having a better understanding of the task that is at hand. It's like a grassroots level approach that the people who are nearest, who are going to be most affected by that decision, the people who are actually going to perform that particular task are also being given power to take decisions related to that particular process. And also it speeds up the decision making because you have delegated the task. Now they do not have to look up to the hierarchical levels. They can themselves take up the decisions. Now, if we talk about the process of delegation, it's simple 3 steps. First, wherein you assign the duties, right? If I want to delegate my task to the subordinates, I will first assign the duties that what am I expecting my subordinates to perform. Once I have done them, once I've done that, then I'll be granting them the authority because I've given them the task, I have given them the activity to be performed. Then what is the authority that they require to perform that task? I'll be granting that authority to them, which will be the second step. And last will be creating an obligation, wherein you tell your subordinates that what is actually expected out of them, what are the results that they are supposed to achieve, and how they will be responsible for performing what particular task for the completion of the assigned task, because they have been given the duty, they have been given the authority, so now they have to perform satisfactorily. There are certain principles of delegation which one must keep in mind when the delegation is being done. You must clearly define the goals, you must clearly define the duties, the objectives, and should explain it to the subordinates if you want them to perform well. Then there has to be a parity of authority and responsibility. We have been discussing it in past also at various places, that whenever some responsibility is being given, it is very important that the corresponding authority is also given, and vice versa. If the authority is being given, then it is important then that some responsibility is also given to the person. There is absoluteness of responsibility. This also we discussed in one of our past classes, that even if I delegate my authority, even if I delegate my tasks, the ultimate responsibility remains mine. I cannot shun off my responsibility just because I have delegated the task or I have delegated the authority. I can delegate my authority, I can delegate my tasks, I can create an obligation for my subordinates to perform that task. But if tomorrow my superior will ask about the performance, I will still be responsible. And in fact, after delegation, you become all the more responsible because you have to take care of your subordinates as well. You have to take care of their action. They are performing the task on your behalf now. The delegation has to be by results expected. If you clearly define that what is it that you are expecting your subordinates to achieve, it becomes easier to delegate the tasks. It becomes easier for them also to understand the task. There must be unity of command so that only one boss is giving the instructions to the subordinates and there is no chaos related to that. Now, this authority level principle says that once you have given the authority, once you have granted the authority to your subordinates, then you must have faith in them. You must let them take the decisions. You should not, keep on interfering after that. So, when the authority has been given, when the task has been assigned, then let them perform the task. Let them exercise their own discretions, let them make their own judgments within this delegated authority, within the premises of this delegated authority. And there should be clarity of delegation, which says that your subordinates must clearly understand the limits of their authority. Then only this authority level principle would also apply. If I am giving task to my subordinates, if I am giving them authority, then it is my responsibility to make them understand what decisions they can take by themselves, for what decisions they have to refer back to me, what is it that they can do on their own, what are the parameters. If it goes beyond that, if the decision making goes beyond that, then they should come back to me before taking the decision. This has to be very clearly defined. And once this has been defined, then you leave your subordinates free, that within the horizons of that boundary that has been created, they are free to take the decisions, but beyond that, they should always come to you. Then let us talk about the difficulties in delegation. Now, when we discuss this topic, we would see that it is difficulty on both sides. There are certain reasons due to which the superior might feel difficulty in delegating the task. They might not be willing to delegate the task. And there might be some difficulties on part of subordinates where they are not ready to take up the tasks. So, on the part of superior or on the part of boss, the one who is delegating the task, what can be the difficulties? First is that they do not want to let go of their power, right? They do not want that their decision making power, their authority should be given to someone else. So, that is the lack of willingness to let go of the authority. Receptiveness lacking means that you are not ready to accept that somebody else can perform task better than you or the way you may have performed. So generally, some of people who are on a higher position, who are sitting at the position of the boss, feel that I am the one who can do this task in the best possible manner and the other person cannot do it. वो उतना अच्छा नहीं कर पाएंगे, वो खराब कर देंगे काम को, और कोई मुझ जैसा काम कर ही नहीं सकता है. This kind of attitude or this kind of feeling leads to lack of receptiveness, that you are not ready to accept that somebody else can also perform the task. Similar to this is that if you lack confidence in your subordinates, you feel that this will lead to failure, सारा काम खराब हो जाएगा अगर इनको दे दिया, or if I give it to my subordinates and if they do not perform well, then what would happen? So this kind of fear might lead to a difficulty in delegation. Then, if you are delegating your tasks to the subordinates, then you will have to direct them, right? You will have to guide them. You will have to make them understand that how they have to take up the responsibility. So if as a superior, as a boss, I lack this ability to direct, I can do the tasks myself, I can take good decisions myself, but if I have to direct someone to do that task, I'm not good at it. Then for me delegation will become difficult, because मैं खुद तो उस काम को अच्छे से कर सकती हूँ, लेकिन अगर वो काम मुझे किसी और से करवाना है, अगर वो काम मुझे किसी और को समझाना है कि कैसे करना है, I lack that. मैं नहीं करवा सकती हूँ, मुझे नहीं समझाना आता. Then delegation will become difficult for me. Fear of competition. This is a very important point because generally this happens that if I am sitting at a position, I might not like to give my power, or I might not like to give up my responsibility to the subordinates with a fear that if he or she performs better than me, then I am having a competition. Because if they give a better performance level in the organization for the task that was assigned for me, काम तो मेरा था. I on that position was supposed to do that task. I delegated it to my subordinate. Now, if the results are better than what I could have achieved, then I am going to face a stiff competition in the coming years. Absence of controls. If the feedback system of the organization is not strong, if the control system of the organization is not strong, then it might be difficult to delegate the tasks. क्योंकि जब आप delegation कर रहे हो, जब आप अपना काम किसी और को assign कर रहे हो, तो आपको बहुत strong control techniques आपके पास होने की ज़रूरत है. Because you will have to keep an eye on what the subordinates are doing, because as we said that there is absoluteness of responsibility. You can delegate the task, you can delegate the authority, responsibility फिर भी आप ही की रहेगी क्योंकि आपने वो काम आगे delegate किया है. Now let us see that what are the difficulties on the part of subordinates. If somebody lacks self-confidence, they themselves might feel that no, this task we cannot do, ये तो manager का काम है, ये काम हम कैसे करेंगे. If there is lack of information and resources about that particular task, if say I am a subordinate, मुझे मेरे बॉस कुछ काम दे रहे हैं कि आप ये काम करके लाओ और मुझे उसके बारे में पूरी नॉलेज नहीं है या मेरे पास पूरे रिसोर्सेज नहीं है, then I might feel hesitant in taking up that task. If there are no positive incentives to do that task, then the subordinates might just shirk off the work because they would feel that why should I do this extra work? ना तो मेरे पास कोई monetary incentive है इसको करने का, मेरे पास कोई non monetary incentive भी अगर नहीं है, then why would I like to take up the extra work which is not mine? तो manager का काम है, मेरे boss का काम है, तो let him or her do that. Fear of criticism. If the subordinates have this fear कि अगर कहीं काम कुछ गलत हो गया, अगर जरा सी भी कुछ गलती हो गई, तो हमें पता है that we are going to have a very hard hearing from our superior. Our boss is going to criticize us in front of everyone, or we might lose our job. If this kind of fear is there in the mind, then the subordinates might not be willing to come forward to take up the responsibilities. So this kind of thing should be avoided. It should be tried that you do not criticize even if there are some lacunas, because ultimately responsibility is yours. You have delegated the task. So rather than doing this, it is better that adequate controls are maintained. You keep a check on the subordinates when they are doing that task, and you give them a safe zone wherein they can feel free to be innovative, to take decisions, and they know that even if they are doing, if something by chance goes wrong, the superior would be there to support them and they'll together make it correct. Then last is dependence on the boss. If the person, the subordinate is such that they want to they have this kind of attitude that they are dependent on boss for the decision making कि नहीं आप decide करके बता दो क्या करना है and then I'll do. If the subordinates are having this kind of attitude, or if they are having this kind of personality trait, then the delegation might not be possible because they'll not be able to handle it. Now the last under the delegation is effective delegation, how you can have effective delegation process. So whatever problems we talked about in the last slide, if you cater to those problems, it will become effective delegation. If it is done in a proper planned manner, if you find the right people who are ready to take the extra responsibility, who are ready to take up the innovative actions, the ones who are competent enough to accept the delegation, then it will be effective. जितना ज़्यादा कम्युनिकेशन क्लियर होगा, जितने ज़्यादा कम्युनिकेशन चैनल्स आपके अच्छे होंगे, जितना ओपन कम्युनिकेशन सिस्टम ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में होगा, उतना आसान है टू डेलीगेट द टास्क्स. Equating authority with responsibility. If you are giving the task, you have to give the authority, and if you are giving some authority, you have to give the corresponding task. नहीं होगा अगर इनका match आपस में, then there is either going to be misuse of power or it might not lead to fulfillment of tasks. Wherever possible, if you are giving somebody an extra task, you should also give them appropriate incentives related to that. right? Because one of the difficulties we read was that if there is no positive incentive with the extra work, the subordinates might not like to do that. Establishing adequate control checks. You must have adequate control system so that a check can be kept. Then there has to be a policy of non-interference, जो हमने पहले भी बात करी, that once you have given the authority to your subordinates, once you have given them the task, then within those boundaries, let them take decisions. Give them a free hand. Then do not keep on interfering on each and every point. If you have given them the authority, have trust on them. If you have given them the task, have trust on them, let them perform. If they'll not be able to do something, they'll come back to you. And last is teamwork. Whenever delegation is being done, because you are giving authority and task, but ultimately the responsibilities of superior, so it is very important that superior and subordinate are making up a good team. If their relationships is not based on trust factor, if they do not trust each other, then you cannot have effective delegation process, because as a superior, even if you delegate but you're not having trust on your subordinates, then you will not be able to fully rely on them. Then you'll keep on poking in between, you'll keep on interfering in between, or maybe you'll just unnecessarily find out faults in their work. Then effective delegation is not possible. So it is important that superior and subordinate are having good relationship. They are having a relationship of trust if we want to have effective delegation. Now in our next video, we will be talking about the concept of centralization and decentralization.